Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Mary Sisters Talk Show. I am your host, Becca Wilson. This show was created to deal with topics and issues that women are facing today. Whether you are married, single, widowed, or divorced, this show is for every sister. Please be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and every Tuesday on our Mary Sisters YouTube channel at 12 noon. If you like our show, please subscribe, like, and share.
We are sisters, married sisters, living our best lives, being blessed wives with our misters. We are sisters, we are married sisters.
So when Becca contacted me and she said, "Come speak," I said, "You don't want me. I'm a little rough around the edges, you know. I'll just talk about stuff, you know." See what happens is, let's say this is pure Christianity. I think we've seen it once. His name was Jesus, okay? And then this is human beings that are broken and dysfunctional, and well, you put it together, what do you get? Does being a Christian help you in your struggle? Absolutely, positively. Yes. Does it heal you and make all those things go away that have been coming on for generations? It don't. I wish it did. If it did, then the divorce rate for Christians be zero. It's equal. It's equal to those who aren't Christians. So
yeah, it's real high. And that's really something, I think, because we don't want to face the truth and do the work. Our hearts are shut down, chained down. Sometimes
you can even use your faith to buffer against doing your own work.
That's so true. Lord, that is just that is so true, because we'll hide behind it and say, well, and this is one of the things I used to hear people say, they're even though they're so nasty, a nasty person, but yet, oh, I'm anointed. Don't come at me. I'm anointed. Like God is, you would hear that and see it I would see it post on Facebook. Oh, I'm anointed. Who you think you are? Don't come at me, because God has anointed me. But you're nasty from the core.
Jesus never went around and talked about how anointed he was. He just talked, and everybody, there's a verse that says he talked like he knew what he was talking about with authority.
Yeah.
He didn't have no degrees after his name, but he just talked like, he knew what he was talking about, and people registered with it. Mm-hmm. You said something about, really what you were talking about was vulnerability and people listening. And so I'll tell my story just a little bit, and it's relevant for you, Becky. You would like this channel to blow up and reach as many people as possible. Yeah. So back 2008, had a sleepy little YouTube channel, and I put up a video. If I got 350 views in a whole year, that was a good video. But then I was in a relationship, and see what happened with my mom when I was born is she never bonded with me as a baby. That's the whole foundation of mental health. She had some health problems. I was induced. I came out screaming, bloody murder. She was sort of narcissistic. She didn't like that screaming baby. She'd let me just lay out in the yard and scream. Then a cute little blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid who never cried came along, and then, they were tight. So that's my wound. My wound is I didn't get bonded. I didn't get love as some other fella did. So I was with this woman. I found out, she sits me down one day. It was April 26, 2015. She said, about a month after we got together, I started fooling around with this fella. We've been fooling around the whole time. Mm-hmm. And the trauma. Mm-hmm. See, the little baby my mom said I'd cried till I turned purple. Oh. So that's trauma. Mm-hmm. So then when she told me this, it was just my story all over again.
Right.
So I turned purple. Mm. And I went through some trauma. I had to not work for a couple of months and spent a lot of time, spent every nickel I had on, spent like $60,000 on therapy because just it was live or die, you know. But then I learned a little bit about healing from narcissistic abuse and healing from complex PTSD. And I didn't know much, but I just got on there and started talking about my experience and my child. And half the time I'd cry. I'm trying to keep from crying here. But what happened was I started getting tens of thousands, and now we're up to almost 5 million views. Because you don't have to advertise a fire, you just have to like burn and people come looking at it, you know? Yeah. And what taught people, what helped people, they didn't say, none of them said, gee, Mark, that video was really smart. They said, I saw your heart.
Yes.
I've been through what you've been through, so thank you for sharing, you know? So that's what I'm hearing here, is I'm hearing you guys sharing your experience and your feelings and the real stuff that goes on in families, even families, you know, that are Christians.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's so true. And I think, you know, one thing that I feel like is really important to keep in mind is that mental health is definitely important. But for me, Jesus is a healer.
Come on.
Jesus is a healer. And my experience, because I held so much, you know, I held so much resentment towards what I didn't get to experience. So I'm trying to create
Which is cancer.
Yeah, I'm trying to create this perfect illusion for my children. You know, I'm trying to create, this is going to look as perfect as it can look.
Come on.
You know, and I worked very hard, you know, at doing that. But what I had to understand is I have to let them go in order to be that for my children.
Authentic.
And so I was in Denver on a work trip. And, you know, I was like, Lord, what I need, you know, we talked about truth. What I need for you to show me is the truth of who these two people that raised me are, including who is the truth of who my stepfather is.
That's a scary prayer to pray.
Well, let me explain what I mean, because I don't mean from their fallen nature, how they've acted in this realm. Who do you say they are? Okay. Who do you declare them to be? Okay. Who were they? Because he said, I give you choices. The choices of life and choices of death. You choose. And so what I asked him, I said, show me them in their perfected state. Show me your perfect will for their life. And when he showed me the picture, it's just like mental images. It was perfection. It was the love, it was the nurturing, but they had been through their own journey of abuse. They had been through their own journey of the struggle that we're all sharing. But I think we have to take 2 steps back and understand that his perfect will, you know, he came to cover a multitude of sins, you know, and if that is the perfect will that the Father sent Jesus to do, we've got to take some steps back and understand that just as we were traumatized, so were they. And so it allowed me to have more grace. Right. It allowed me to have grace on them and to understand that, my God, what did they go through? Right. I mean, because it was probably 10 times worse than what I experienced. So I look at them through those lenses now, and I can honor them in the way that Scripture says, honor your mother and your father, you know, and your days will be long, because I can see the truth of who he said, not what they did. I understand that is the reality, but the truth based on Scripture and who he called them to be in the earth. And that just really helped me.
Yeah, and that's so true. I just want to say, because a lot of times people don't look at the fact that he said, honor your mother and your father, not the parents and not the parenting style. And so that to me is really key, because you have to understand that they didn't just ascend.
Right.
They came from somewhere. Right. And they've gone through trauma, drama, all of that stuff. And that generation a lot don't share. They don't talk about
they
stuff.
They didn't have good therapy.
Right. True. Exactly. And so a lot of them are just so closed down. And then when it comes to love and connection, in that generation, you feel like, and like my mom's in them generation and stuff, you feel like, do y'all love me? Can I get a kiss and a hug sometimes? And can you acknowledge me when you come in the house? You know, you don't have that type of connection, but they love you though.
Yeah.
They do love you, but when you talk to them about their parents before them, well, my dad never hugged me. He never told me that he loved me and things like that. And so that, you know, behavior just, like I said, it just keeps trickling down. But the fact that I know that my parents aren't perfect, they're not God, you know. So it's like I had to accept that this is what happened to you. I can't judge you by not liking you.
So
gotta honor that.
when a couple comes in and they're sitting in front of me, I don't see two people. I see 14.
Right.
I see 14.
Yeah.
So let me go into the story behind the story. You know, I told that story. My mom came off sounding pretty cold-blooded, you know, letting the baby cry in the backyard. But look at her story. So my grandma, her mom was bipolar. We've got bipolar running through. My daughter's bipolar. It strikes about a third of the females through 5 generations, and so grandma was bipolar, and my grandma, great grandma was bipolar. My grandma and her brothers grew up in an orphanage, so she gets out the orphanage and she's a nanny. She's 19 years old, and the man of the house really was manipulative and drew her into a relationship. She gets pregnant. You Catholic and you 19 and you pregnant, you ain't keeping that baby and you ain't getting an abortion. You gonna put that baby. So there's 2 generations in a row that grew up in orphanage. So the first 3 years my mom was in an orphanage, and that's the important 3 years. So then my grandma marries my granddad. He's a short little Dutch fella, and he had a really bad anger problem. And he was controlling and all about money. And my grandma was real passive. So my poor mom not only had 3 years in an orphanage, but then the dad she has hated her, and he raged at her. Well, how'd she get to be the way she was? She did have it worse. Now we go over to my dad's side. You think my mom's side's bad. My dad, his mother was 12 when he was born. His daddy was 36.
Oh.
He eventually ended up in jail for doing things like that. So he grew up without a dad. He had a stepdad who hated him and beat him. He won't even talk about his stepdad. And so he and his mother was mentally ill. And I checked with a family member. He said she was a conniver. I said, what's a conniver? Scheming and conniving. You put it together, you get a conniver.
Wow.
And she would take advantage of him. He was off in the service, and he'd send his money home, and she spent his money. She was a hurtful, using person. So who was he going to grow up and marry? My mom was dominant, and she was a bit of a conniver herself, you know. So and my dad, I'll tell you a funny story, just interesting story about my dad, and then I'll throw it open here. But he grew up with a big bubble around him because he was so wounded when he was so young. Yeah. He wasn't connected to his mom. He wasn't connected, didn't have a dad. There's a story, the guy he thought he was his dad. He went to him and wanted college money. And the guy says, I ain't your dad. You know. So, but anyway, my dad was this passive man, and one of his addictions was playing bridge. When somebody says playing bridge, I hear alcoholic, because his whole life sort of revolved around it. But when he got out of the military, he went to Los Angeles, and he was a mailman, and he was a master's bridge player, and turns out his partner was the actor Omar Sharif. Dr. Zhivago, Lawrence of Arabia. He was the Brad Pitt of his generation. Y'all might be a little too young.
I'm sure I am.
You've heard of Dr. Zhivago.
I've heard that.
Lawrence of Arabia. Trust me, he was Brad Pitt. And my brother went one time, and you talk about cussing. he went and saw my dad play bridge with Omar Sharif, and my dad was cussing him and calling him stupid and just verbally abusing him. And he's Brad Pitt of his generation. And my brother said, Mr. Sharif, why you play bridge with my dad the way he treats you? And he says, because he's the best bridge player in California. It touches me. Mm-hmm. It's like he never had much to brag about, but that story has always sort of touched me.
Yeah.
So tell me more.
Well, we had to take a little break. Things was getting fired up, but now we're going to take it to a whole nother level. Mm-hmm. And so Mark is about to just really break down this genograph that he has for us, different patterns. And Mark, just take it away, bro.
So life is hard. I don't know why life is so hard. Doesn't seem like it should be this hard. Everybody I ever did one of these on, which is, hundreds and, probably thousands of people, you won't know anybody on the planet that you find out about their parents and their grandparents and their great-grandparents, or you won't find all kinds of pain and death and addiction and narcissism and woundedness and abandonment and shame. Why it's that way, I don't know, but everybody out there is broken. And if y'all are watching this, then just know that you're not. If your family's broken and you're broken, don't feel bad about yourself. You're just normal. That's the human condition. And you can reach out for help from God, and you can reach out from help from people that have been through. To find a good healer, you don't find somebody with lots of initials out of their name. You find somebody that done their own healing. And then they've been there, and then they can do it. So I want to hit you guys with just some basics about family systems and about relationships and about the genogram. And I call them immutable laws of nature. So the first one is, so on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being perfectly healthy, there was 110. I don't think there's any other 10s on the planet. I don't think there's any 9s, 8s, 7s, or 6s. And I've never met a 5. You know what the worldwide average is? And I've got clients from all over the world. And I've got clients in the States from Iran and Nigeria and India. They're all people. They're the same. People are people. 3 is about the worldwide average of mental health. And you think that doesn't sound very good. It is what it is.
Wow.
It is what it is, You do one of these, I don't care who you do it on. I'll prove to you it's a 3. Just tell me the truth. Some people don't know the truth, and they give you a watered down version. And I'm like, come on now.
It's in there.
Don't be watering it down, because I know better. So the second thing, concept is when you start to date and you're ready to meet your spouse. Let's say you're at a party. Let's say you're at church. Yeah, church. And there's 100 young men there, and whatever your issue is, 99 of them don't got it. Now, there's no room like that on the planet, to be honest with you. But let's say one of them has that particular dysfunction, brokenness that came from your childhood. You'd be like, he looking good. He is fine. And you'll be, who that guy? You'll be drawn to him like a magnet. And there's another guy that's better looking than him. There's another guy who has more money than him. But this guy he just draws you. And then you don't know why for 20 years later. And then you're like, I've seen you before. So that's something people generally don't know. Okay, so again, the reason why God chose marriage as a tool to give you a chance to heal by having your walls come down is everybody gets to play. Because almost everybody falls in love with somebody at least once in their lifetime. Every time you fall in love, you pick somebody so wrong for you that they're perfect for you.
Wow.
Because they're there to help you to heal. And you just, the energy's there and it comes out eventually. One thing I wanted to hit on was ethnic patterns. You know, when I do this, let me talk about some ethnic German people. I find out a dad is German, and mom is German, and a grandparent. I could stop right there. I don't even need to hear the rest. We're done. I already know you, because I've never had a German family where there wasn't massive workaholism, lack of emotion, lack of affection, not a lot of hugs, there's not a I love yous, just stern, hard-working people. You know, I've had one, I'm not saying that German people don't become alcoholics, but now Irish people, the reason there's stereotypes is because there's some truth to it. I get into Irish family, there's three things: red hair, freckles, rage, and alcoholism. Okay, and then I'm what you call a Pennsylvania hillbilly. And so let me talk about Appalachian people, you know, Kentucky, Tennessee. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yes. I know from Kentucky.
There you are. But what is real prevalent with Appalachian people, of course, is poverty, lack of education, and there's all kinds of drug addiction, alcoholism, and sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is really, if I'm working with somebody who's Appalachian, I'm just looking. I'm like, I know this is probably here somewhere. Just keep my eyes open. So the thing I appreciated about the book Roots is, what if your story 6 generation back, 7 generation, however much it is man out hunting, mind his own business, gets snatched up and put on a boat and barely survive, and then had his freedom taken away and abused in every way possible, and have his wife abused in every way possible. What if that's the story? Wow. What is that going to do to generations? Yes. Y'all would know better than me. But generally, what black folks, they don't go see a white therapist very much. You know, they come, they start. Some of them do a lot of work, but I don't know what's your experience? Where does healing happen? It sounds like at church, you know, but where does healing happen, and how does it happen? Because it ain't happening with as much, you know, even though they got as much, they might have in some ways more woundedness because they were oppressed. Yes. You know, generations ago, and still are. I was saying the other day, I was trying to talk about boundaries. I said, yeah, you don't have to be nasty, set a boundary. Every time I've been pulled over by the police because I've been speeding, they treat me nice and they call me sir. And it ain't always like that. You know, sometimes there's stuff that, you know, racism and abuse and killing people. You know, so what are your thoughts about that?
Well, you know, a lot of us, we don't go. And that's a lot.
You don't go.
We do not go to counseling and seek it. We just survive and coexist in that mess. And we don't want to right those wrongs, right those relationships. So that just keeps trickling down from generation to generation. And then, but there is some that they realize something is wrong, but they may go to counseling, but yet we'll start seeking out through books, self-help books, you know.
YouTube videos.
YouTube videos trying to say, oh, okay. I know when I was younger, I would go to the library. like, why in the world this man that I married
That's cool.
act this way?
That's cool.
So I started looking out, trying to find all these symptoms that
She
I
at
knew
the
he
library.
had. And I went to the library, and of course, you know, the rage in this person, they took and tried to throw the books in the dumpster. And I'm actually jumping over to the dumpster to get these books so that the library wouldn't charge me, y'all. But we don't. It's like we're just on so much denial, and we just live with that. It's just like it's part of it's normalized. It's just part of our life, you know.
I love that you say that, and I just love to look back. I feel like we can't go forward if we don't look back and see where we come from.
right.
So we come from being oppressed. We come from being raped. We come from being slaves, and we come from you don't tell them what happened to you. And so no longer enslaved in that capacity because we still have chains on.
I'm getting chills up and down my spine. You talking like that?
Amen. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for moving. So we've arrived here, but the unspoken rule is still you don't tell them what goes on in our household. And it may even be spoken. In my household, it was spoken. You don't tell them what happened because this will happen. And so we pass that down. And so now in the Black community, you're weird or you're peculiar if you go to seek some mental health support. And so that's why I live my life out to encourage our people, go get the help. And I tell them, taking care of your mental health needs, you take care of your little cell phone. If your screen cracks, you go take your car to the gas station when you need some gas or to get an oil change. You get food and put it in your refrigerator to go in your belly, but you're not taking care of your mind. And once your mind goes,
And your relationships?
come on, you know, so we do all these other things, but we have mental wellness on the low end of the totem pole when it's the thing that literally drives us. Try to live life without your mind. Take your brain out. Can you live? Can you function? You're doing nothing. So I just urge us to consider the importance of Black people, my people. Go get the help. Like, it starts with you. Because we're a part of the problem for our own people if we're not going to talk about this is what happened to me. And I understand too. Often we feel badly like we're snitching because I'm telling on my mama. For me, I'm telling on my mom. I'm telling on what she did to me.
You're just trying to name the truth. You ain't blaming them.
Exactly. And so I'm saying, and so if I'm a bad person for saying what you did to me was wrong, that's on you. I get to tell my truth. This happened to me. You did this to me. So I get to say, this is what happened. And this is what I need to happen so that I can heal and live life again so I don't do this to my child.
Right.
So it's much deeper than just I'm going to tell it. I'm going to tell it so that the generations behind me can nip this issue of abuse in the bud, or at least start working towards it. So that's that's what rises up in me is we got to seek the help.
And that's the righteousness in us.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we got to right these wrongs, and you know, we want to come into alignment. So that's the righteousness in you to say, no, this is wrong.
Right.
This is wrong. How can we fix this? Can we sit at a family table and really talk about this without people just blowing up?
Probably not.
You can't. You know what? You absolutely cannot, because stuff's gonna be blown out. They're not gonna receive it. So it's like, peoples. What do? We continue on living like that.
So, there you go. Go.
I think that there is, in the Black community, I mean, that's the community I'm in, so I can't really make an assessment of any other.
Just happen to be Black.
Just happen to be in that one. But I think that there is an aggrandized ideology of where we are. And so if I keep the appearance, if the front looks good, I don't have to deal with what's behind me. And I think about that, look at our fashion. We got, most of women, they got to carry the Louis Vuitton. You might not be able to afford a Louis
Come on,
Vuitton, but you're carrying
swipe.
one. You're driving a foreign exotic car, but can you even make the payment? Where did you get that car? So in most cases, it's like we have never had a position of where we can be on top and we can be in front. So we want to aggrandize our persona, what we're pushing out. To admit that weakness, oh no, oh never. And you're exactly right. It was told in our house, don't take a word out these doors. I mean, it wasn't an unspoken rule, it was spoken. You don't tell what goes on in this house. What happens in these doors stays in these doors. So there's this ideology to present this persona that's false. So to admit weakness, to admit that there's something wrong,
To show up and say, I need help, and say we need help and we're broken and cry tears. It doesn't happen as much as it needs to happen. So I'm glad that you're saying to the people, you know, if it hurts, don't numb out. Just talk about it and get it out and cry it out, and you'll feel so much better if you do. That's the natural thing, is to cry.
Hi again, this is Becca Wilson. I truly hope you have enjoyed our show today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time, you be blessed and have a great day.